Elizabeth Perrier is the CEO of Orbis Compliance, with more than 20 years of experience in the industry. She holds a master's in telecommunications management and a PMP from San Jose State University in California. She's very active in the compliance community, contributing to technical articles to industry publications, speaking appearances in many venues, including FCC workshops in the United States. Orbis's experience in Latin America, serving manufacturers around the world with regulatory matters and helping certify products for telecom, safety, energy efficiency, medical, battery, and environmental fields. Elizabeth is originally born and raised in Latin America. Her deep understanding of Latin culture and each country's laws have made her a key partner to many manufacturers who seek their guidance. So without any further ado, let's learn about Mexico compliance with Ms. Perrier.
Good morning. Thank you, Mike, for the kind introduction. It is a pleasure for Orbis to be part of the Washington Labs Academy webinar series. Our goal today is to provide an in-depth overview of the telecom and safety processes and regulations in Mexico. We'll be looking at the laws, certificate types, labeling, and much more. Before we start, allow me to introduce Orbis Compliance to you. We are a regulatory firm that provides strategy and compliance solutions to manufacturers around the world in the telecom, safety, medical, energy efficiency, battery, and take-back and recycling industries. We are headquartered in Silicon Valley with distributed offices throughout Latin America. You can count with professional personnel with decades of experience who will share their expertise with manufacturers. Orbis works directly with regulators without any intermediaries, thus protecting the IP of all our clients and delivering reliable results. Orbis's goal is to give the manufacturer control over the regulatory affairs. With that said, let's get started. Mexico is the second largest economy in Latin America, with a vibrant local economy growing steadily and with continued expected growth. Mexico is the second largest in foreign investment, Brazil being the first. IFT is the telecommunications regulator in Mexico, formed in 2013. IFT is an independent body that creates and implements laws for the telecom and broadcasting industry in Mexico. IFT requires mandatory product approvals for wireless and telecommunication products. Local representation is mandatory, meaning that only a registered Mexican entity with IFT can hold an IFT certificate. IFT does not require factory inspection in order to obtain a IFT certificate. IFT provides different types of certificates: temporary, permanent, and extension certificate. Temporary certification is renewable yearly unless there is a request for a permanent certification by the end of the second renewal. A permanent certification, as its name says, there's no renewal needed. An extension certificate is a certificate that includes products with similar technical characteristics to the most complete model in the family. Mexico requires product in-country testing. FCC, CE, or CB documentation is not valid or recognized by IFT. Testing is done under the rules of NOM-029, which includes Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, analog, and E1 for E1 devices. One commercial sample is required. The certificate issued by the lab is known as the PEC or PEC certificate, and this certificate of conformity is requested at the port of entry. Also, this certificate of conformity is a key document to gain IFT approval, which will give the homologation number, which will give the rights to the manufacturer to sell the product in Mexico. IFT creates and enforces several laws in Mexico. We will do a review and provide insights on the laws that are in transition today. NOM-196 is specific to terminal equipment that connects to the public network. NOM-017 for digital equipment that interfaces to the public network, and NOM-208 for spectrum equipment regulating the 900, 2.4, and 5 GHz band. NOM-221 is a new proposal for cellular systems that intends to replace the current IFT 011 and expects to resolve some errors that had occurred with IFT 011. NOM-083 related to one-way mobile radios. NOM-084, a very old law related to radio communications using trunking service that is expected to be replaced by IFT 015. And finally, NOM-088, a law related to radio multiple access points that also is expected to be replaced by IFT 014. All these new laws that I just mentioned, today they don't have a publishing date, but we expect for them to be implemented this year. There's a new project in creating a new PEC program, replacing older laws that were published in 2002. As you can see, NOM-088 Part 1, NOM-088 Part 2, NOM-084 are some of the laws that are going to be included in this proposal for new PEC. IFT 011 is related to cellular technology, and IFT 012 regulation just published last year, implemented last year actually for SAR parameters. So this kind of summarizes the laws for IFT that we have currently running. Let's go to the labeling requirements for IFT. So labeling is mandatory. The name of the manufacturer and the model of the product must be on the label. There are several options on how to display the homologation number to show compliance. It can be on the product, on the manual, on the package, or it could be on electronic labeling. It must be durable, visible, and it is a non-transferable number that can be used by nobody else except for the entity that's being given to. Here, a sample of the PEC certificate that is required to be shown at customs. This certificate is permanent but subject to an audit if they request it. If they request it, then in-country testing will be required again. Here there's a sample of the IFT certificate that allows similar products and models to be added to the certificate, and the most complete model again will be part of the main product that will be listed in the certificate, and the other ones will be added to that nomenclature. And if a certificate needs to be renewed the first year, and by the second renewal, there's a chance to request permanent certification. On October 2017, IFT signed an MRA agreement with a US NIST, which calls to recognize test reports for approved US laboratories. The benefit for this MRA is that approved labs will have their test reports approved by Mexican laboratories after a revision. Today, there are 5 laboratories that can have their test reports recognized by accredited Mexican laboratories pending approval after the revision. The cost is the same as if they would perform the test, but the advantage is that no samples will be required, no samples will have to be shipped. The process through IFT is the same, and the lead time is the same for processing the approval. With this, we have complete the overview for IFT, and we can move on to the safety section. To the safety requirements in Mexico. There are several regulatory bodies authorized to certify products in Mexico. The most recognized entities are NICE, ANSE, and a new certifying body called NPMX. All these certifying bodies are authorized to issue approvals for wireless and safety product certifications. The new NPMX certifying body offers safety scope currently, but they will be expanding their services to wireless by August of this year. What are the safety requirements in Mexico? The regulations are called NOMs. All products intended for public consumption are required to obtain a safety certificate. There is the mandatory marking required called the NOM mark, which communicates to the consumer that the product has been approved by the Mexican authorities to be safe for use. The safety certificate can only be issued to a local entity that is registered with the certifying body. All products that use residential AC or DC voltage above 25 volts are regulated in Mexico. Highly specialized products can receive exemptions if they meet certain criteria and avoid product testing. However, they will need an approval for importing. A dictamen allows to skip the product testing if the importation is less than 25 units. Family products are allowed up to 10 units as long as they are similar in voltage and belong to the same family of products. NRTL certificates by UL, CSA, TUV, and Intertech are recognized by the local laboratories, agencies which have local offices in Mexico. But sometimes it takes twice as long or more to get it done. Thus, the 4-week turnaround when testing locally sometimes seems more attractive. Here are a list of the documents required to start a safety certificate. Product electrical specifications, operation manual, country of origin, regulatory label, and HS code. Let's move to the analysis of the regulations with a visual explanation. Electrical products are regulated if they are intended for public consumption and must go through in-country testing. Highly specialized products may qualify for an exemption if they meet specific criteria. Products that have a power less than 24 volts are exempt. Other products that are above 25 volts can have several laws applicable depending on their product category. For electrical appliances, NOM-003 is applicable. Examples of products on this category are electrical appliances, household appliances, electrical tools, control and distributor equipment, and lighting fixtures, with rated voltage up to 1000 volts for AC and 1500 volts for DC. For products that are classified as office equipment, NOM-016 is applicable. However, this law is planned to be annulled very soon, and there is a proposal to merge product categories. Currently, the scope for NOM-016 is electronic calculators, electronic diaries, cash register, point of sale, fax machines as example. There is a new proposal to merge NOM-016 with NOM-019. This category relates to data processing equipment. The new proposal expands the old product list and includes more current electronic devices such as tablets, ATMs, routers, bridges, and much more. This new NOM-019 is expected to be published sometime this year. There will be a 240-day period of grace for manufacturers to adjust before full enforcement. The new NOM is NOM-001, which applies to generic electrical apparatuses. Currently, this NOM is under revision as well, with a large number of changes in their product list. We are monitoring this new law closely because it will impact a large number of products. With this section, we complete the regulatory overview and we can move to the labeling requirements. The label must be in Spanish and contain name of the manufacturer, make, model, commercial name if applicable, rated voltage, nominal feed frequency, rate current, power consumption, output power. The NOM mark with its revised dimensions of 2017 is the new standard. This marking must be on the body of the power supply or the product. Here a sample of an NICE certificate, which is renewable every year, requiring country testing. Family certificates are possible up to 10 models, similar in electrical rating and country of origin. At this point, let's move to the last topic, energy efficiency. Requirements that have become important this past year with the enforcement of NOM-029. Before we start describing NOM-029, let's highlight who are the agencies regulating energy efficiency in Mexico. We have CONUE, who is the regulatory agency. We also have the certifying bodies, who are accepting product testing and certifying the product, who are NICE, MPMX, and ANSI. The consumer agency surveilling all the requirements is called Profeco. With that said, let's take a look at NOM-029. NOM-029 regulates efficiency parameters for external power supplies and divides them in 3 categories: USB output power, low voltage output, generic output voltage. It divides it based on the 6-volt parameter. If the power supply is less than 6 volts, then it will consider to be a low voltage power supply. If it's higher than 6 volts, then it will be considered a generic output power. The USB requirements will range between 0.25 to 5 volts, and all 3 categories must comply to the power in non-load model listed on the last column over here. NOM-029 regulates power supplies in category 5 and 6. The labeling requirements are the same as indicated before. However, the label is a bit different. The label must be adhered to the product and or the packaging. The requirements are as indicated, must say that it complies to NOM-029 and must indicate the category of product. At this point, let's take a look at NOM-032. NOM-032 is for products that use standby mode capabilities. The products that are listed or included on this category are digital TVs, decoders, audio playback equipment, scanners, printers, DVD and players, microwave ovens, and other types of TV. There's also labeling requirements. The label can be placed on the packaging or on the cord, must be in Spanish, and the label must be not removed before purchasing. As you can see, the cord labeling is a little different than the package label, and they have to have black text on white background. With this portion, we have concluded the regulatory overview for telecom and safety requirements for Mexico. I thank you very much for the time given today to us, and I hope the information is useful for your organization. We are available to respond to any questions that you may have, any details, so please feel free to contact us directly. At this point, I want to thank Washington Labs for allowing us to be part of their series, and I would like to turn it over to them for the Q&A period. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Appreciate that very much. We have a few questions for you.
Yes, thank you very much, Mike. I think some of them are already being answered. There's some of them that, well, perhaps we need a little bit more clarification. There is a question about controls, what category. So we need a little bit more information for that question, is depending if the controls has any RF specifications, then definitely it requires a certificate for IFT. Anything that is wireless needs obviously being certified. If the control, depending on the rating, again, it may be also part of NISA requirements, so we need a little bit more information to be able to answer that question. The next question that I see is again, is it applicable for marine electronics? So again, depending what kind of band the product is using, we'll be able to answer that to you. So it's very specific to what the specifications of the product is. Now, there is bans for marine products that are restricted. They need to comply, perhaps, with the bans that Mexico has in their regulations. So, again, please feel free to send that over to us, and we'll be able to analyze them and give you a very good, accurate information. There is another question about marking. If NISE and NOM logos are on the label, what needs to be in the user manual? So there's two things on this. So we have the NOM-NISE for the labeling. So if your certificate is a NISE certificate, then a power supply that's going to come in with that product, they require to put the NOM-NISE logo on the power supply. However, there's also a NISE certification through NOM-208, which is the IFT certification. So if we're talking about the IFT certification, then we're looking at the IFT homologation number that is given at the end of the whole process. So that number can go on the manual, or on the product, or actually on the packaging. And if you have ability, you can actually put that on an electronic label. So I hope that answers the question. The next question that we're looking at is, are there standards or specifications that apply to industrial equipment for Mexico or Latin America similar to, let me just see, I can't see it a little bit, to the CE Machinery Directive? Okay, so depending on, if we're looking at industrial equipment, we need to know again, if is an industrial equipment that has RF specifications. There is, if we're looking just at a plug and with nothing else, that actually there is some exemptions in Mexico, and there is some exemptions in Argentina. We can apply for an exemption through a different process and a different entity in Argentina, not with the usual regulatory agencies like IRAM and ENECOM. So there is some exemptions to industrial products. Even in Mexico, if it's something we talked about, highly specialized equipment, then may apply to that category of product. So again, we need to take a look at the specifications and see whether the criteria that they're requiring will meet that, and proceed with the process. Okay, I think we have a little bit more information on the controls question that was given before. So the question is controls. HVAC, temperature, humidity, pressure, refrigeration, flow, float type, cover under IEC 6730-1 and associated with Part 2. Okay, so I believe then this would be probably considered under the safety regulations. I think perhaps could be considered something that is under the industrial product. So definitely, I think looking at the data sheet, we'll be able to provide you a very good assessment. But yeah, from what you're describing, I think probably it would not be applicable. Let me see, there's another question, the standard specifications that apply to industrial products. We have mentioned that, and I believe so far all the questions have been answered, unless there's more that you would like to bring forward. Another question that has been answered already directly, it dealt with energy efficiency mandatory requirement for power supplies. Yes, definitely it is. We talked about two different regulations for energy efficiency, NOM-029, which is specific for power supplies, and for any product that has consumer electronics. And the other one is a NOM-032, which is specific to TVs, videos, a lot of consumer products which operate on standby mode. So there's definitely both are mandatory. And as mentioned before, there is the market surveillance by Profeco. It is at the moment not being requested at the port of entry, so they're not requesting the certificate itself, but that is going to change. There's already the talk internally that will be another mandatory requirement that will show up on the HS codes or the requirements that will be shown at the port of entry. Another question that was already answered, but I want to share with the audience, had to do if product is shipped with a quantity, we can send a copy of the cert, right? Products could be shipped from China, Korea, or India. So as long as the product is certified and has a certificate either by IFT or a certificate of safety NOM, no matter where it's being shipped from, as long as they are presenting that certificate at the port of entry and they comply with the requirements that customs is asking for, there is no problem that product is going to come in. I see one other question, I think, that was asked again is, do you need to send a copy of the certificate with every shipment? Is sending a copy with every shipment? That's what the question was about. It is highly recommended that you do that, and it is very important that that certificate will match the product that you're sending. They're going to be taking a look at the make and the model, which need to have a very good match with the products coming in. If there is some kind of variation, sure enough, you will have questions and perhaps your product retained. So it is important that that certificate matches the product coming in. I know last year there was issues with some products being retained because the local holder did not match the importer. That happened for a period about 3 or 4 months, just around September when a lot of products were coming in for Christmas. That was resolved sometime in November with the change of NOM-029-ENER-2017 having it listed on the customs list. They had some issues, but that has been fixed. So no longer can the certificate may be under the local representative, but sometimes the local representative is not the importer. It may be a broker firm that is actually bringing in the product in country. So there were issues saying that the distributor should be the one also claiming the product at the point of entry, but and that's why there was a lot of shipments retained, but that's being solved. So perhaps this question arises from that incident that happened last year. Okay, I think I see more questions coming in. The difference between the old NOM-019 and the new one include computers and peripherals for any electrical ratings and that are marked to both consumer, retailers, and business. Is that correct? Yes. So what they're trying to do is the list of NOM-016. As you can see, they had very old devices that are actually they are no longer in the market. They're not even sold. So what they're doing, they're taking the opportunity to actually combine the two NOMs and actually update that list with products that actually are current now. So the goal is to be able to simplify the process and have a regulation that is more up to date. But the list is long. There's a lot of products that are going to be including on there. So it's very important to keep an eye on what else is being added. As mentioned before, it's not totally published, but I think the expectations this is being talked about since last year. My guess is that will be implemented this year. As soon as we hear that is already approved for publishing, we will make sure that we will send an alert to all of you and let you know that this is actually a law to be implemented, and that we will be actually giving you the implementation that usually they give you about 240 days for full implementation. Okay, so there is another question. I should mention that Israel Rocha is with me. He's our senior technical telecom engineer, and he's actually answering directly to many of you during this message. So there is some of the questions that is perhaps some of you are not seeing. I am repeating. We're talking about acuerdo. So this, what is an acuerdo? For example, there is the 5 gigahertz band, and some portion is regulated and some is not. So they divide the 5 gigahertz band in two portions. One portion will get tested, and the other portion will be actually revised through the document revision process. So they get two different treatments, one testing, one through the perito process, which is document revision, where an engineer reviews and gives a statement that those are in accordance to the regulations. So there are different types of agreements like that, and acuerdos and agreements, where they are recognizing different processes to do different processes via the perito process in different bands. So just to clarify what these acuerdos are all about. There's another question. Do you accept a U.S. DOE energy level 6 as equivalent to NOM energy efficiency and a power supply? Do we have to certify to this NOM or just claim that we mean it? Well, since power supplies right now are regulated and they are requesting in-country testing, so no U.S. Certification will be valid, unfortunately. So this change was as of April of last year, and every power supply that is above 25 volts, as mentioned, or anything that is actually over the 6 volt range and it has different specific things, then it is going to have to get in-country testing. Another question, are security requirements mandatory for telecom equipment? Security requirements, I'm not quite sure. Can you please maybe specify exactly what you're looking for in terms of an answer? What we can tell you, what's regulated is the RF portion of this. So they're looking definitely at the RF compliance and the safety compliance. We don't have haven't heard of any security compliance yet of any laws, but we can look into it if there's something specific that you're looking for. So please contact us. Any idea as to when the NOM-019 will be published and when will be the effective date? Again, I think I mentioned this. We believe we just talked to the regulator yesterday to get a better visibility of when this will be published. So they're always, tell us sometime this year, but we totally don't know. It may be, in 3 days or 5 days. There was an instance, actually, we had a presentation at the FCC about a year ago, 3 days before the NOM-029 was published. We had called, and within 2-day period, they told us it wasn't implemented, and within the 2-day period, it got implemented. So we never know. We need to keep checking the Gazette. This is a publishing that it's published every single week. We check that every day to make sure that nothing new has happened. So, but as soon as we know, definitely the group will be able to really find out when the new implementation will be. What is the date of the acuerdos regulating the following bands: 2.4, 2.483, 5 gigahertz? Please, could you tell me? So in terms of, there is a regulation already for 2.4, 2.48, 530. Okay, just a minute. I think these are the new ones that are being worked on. So those, I think I'll relay to Israel. He is actually the expert on it. He will probably provide you the information by email with exact dates. But these are really important to track, and I'm sure Israel will get back to you with exact answers. Another question, is there any HSE criterion for telecom equipment certification? Not as far as we know. but we can also again look into it, and maybe there's something specific you're looking for. And if you can get back to us, we'll make sure that we get the right assessment for you.
Can I talk right now regarding this question?
Oh, sure, no problem.
Yes, actually, in India, we also have the HSE criteria for the safety testing, and the condition are like that the equipment should be three-phase power supply or current more than 16 ampere or with some weight and dimension requirement. And as you know, there are going to be mandatory some telecom equipment testing in India in the future. So we are working for the same HSE criteria for telecom equipment also. So we are looking for the other global country if they are having any HSE criteria for the telecom equipment, then we can take reference for those. Otherwise, we are taking reference for safety HSE criteria only right now.
Okay, so that's for India, and the question is there some alignment with some of the safety regulators in Latin America?
Yes, in safety we have already defined the HSE criteria, but the telecom, under telecom ministry, these certification is under process. It's not mandatory right now, but it's in the process of formulation. So we have to formulate these HSE criteria for telecom equipment also.
Okay, thank you for that information. I appreciate it.
Okay. Okay.
I think there's another question. Are one homologated W Lang? I'm sorry, just moved. Modular device is still accepted, or is system approval for notebooks now required? No, actually, a modular certification in Mexico is very advisable, especially if that module is used across different devices. You can use that modular approval and actually apply it to the different products that you have. So definitely, modular approval is accepted. Another question, will there be a text available for Q&A, or today's, will the text be available for Q&A of today's session? I believe it is, and but I leave that to Mike to answer. Do you make the Q&A available to the rest of the audience, Mike?
Well, we're making a recording right now. So, the attendees will get a link to the recording, and they can review the questions we had today.
Fantastic. And I see that Israel already added the acuerdos for the different types of bands that were being requested. Thank you, Israel, for that. So a good support for today. Okay, I think I don't see any questions coming in, Mike.
I did note one, Elizabeth. Someone asked about the impact of IEC 62368, and if there's going to be a deadline for implementation of the new safety standard in Mexico.
Okay, so let me just see, where is that one? I believe that one, you know, there's still, Latin America always playing catch up with new regulations. So I think any new standard that coming in, I think it's probably maybe being looked at in terms of the NOM-019. And again, we're waiting when that will be implemented. So at this point, I don't think I can give information on that unless, again, we really know exactly what that NOM-019 final version will be. Someone's asking if the PDF slides will be available, and I think the recording will be a portion that everyone will have access to, but I believe the PDF will not be available. Any other questions?
Seems I had a
Okay, there's a couple of questions I think that are not answered here. Did I understand correctly that IFT and NOM-019, that labeling can be either the user's manual,
PDF?
packaging, or user manual? There is one question that is not an answer over here. So for IFT, with IFT you get the homologation number. That homologation number is what allows the product to actually be sold in country. So in Mexico, you get 3 different certificates if you have safety and telecom regulations applicable to your product. So through NOM-019, you are complying to the safety regulations if your product uses a flag. The certificate that we mentioned, the PEC certificate, is the certificate of compliance to the to the wireless, to the RF requirements that the country is looking for, which is part of that document is part of the submission to get the IFT certificate. So the IFT certificate is the most important one because that is the one that gives you the homologation number. That homologation number needs to be on the manual, the package, or the product. Now, for NOM-019, this is specific to the power supply and the commercial unit, the product and the power supply all together. So the labeling for the safety needs to be on the power supply, and the NOM-019 certificate, it actually is for the entire product, anything that is already in the commercial package, the product itself, which is may have a ref specifications, and the power supply. So the NOM-019 is certifying the entire product. I hope that is clear. Another question, if we have a certificate of NOM-028 issued to one importer and we have 3 more importers of the same product, can we extend the certificate to them? Yes, depending on who the local holder is. This is something that we actually advise our clients very often, to have a neutral party, or if your company has a local holder already in Mexico, then that local holder is the one that is able to actually extend the extensions to the other parties. However, if that local holder is a distributor, that distributor more likely is not going to want to actually extend certificates to other importers that perhaps are their competitors. That's the reason which is important to have either your local, if you have a local office, that local office is acting on your best interest and will be able to actually do those extensions. Or have a neutral party like us, that we will be able to hold your certificates and will be working on your behalf, or you tell us who we have to extend certificates to, because we're a neutral party. So that is the answer to this. So the best thing is to be able to have a neutral party or either your local office to hold the certificate, so you can have that flexibility to not only extend certificates to 3 or more. Otherwise, if you're with a distributor, you're going to be forced to actually do the same process 3 times. So I hope that answer your questions. One more. Do you know when the new changes on the NOM-001 standard will come out? Again, we would love to know that. This is the one that we're really monitoring very closely, because there's so many products that have been added to that list. We don't know yet. We're tracking it, and again, as soon as we find out, we'll be contacting you and alerting everyone that that just got published.
Well, thank you very much, Elizabeth, and I think we'll go ahead and close this session. I appreciate everyone's attention and attending. We'll do a follow-up email to the group, and thank you again, Elizabeth.
Oh, you're welcome, Mike, and thank you very much to everyone for attending, and Delighted to be part of Washington Labs webinar series. Thank you again.
Thank you. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye-bye.